For so many of us, Alzheimer's has just been this story of helplessness, right? Of watching it happen without any warning. But what if that story is finally changing?
Well, today, we're diving into an incredible scientific breakthrough. We're talking about a simple blood test that can predict Alzheimer's years before any symptoms even show up. And no, this isn't science fiction anymore. This is a brand new era of hope. All right, so here's the game plan for today. First, we'll talk about the breakthrough itself. Then we'll get into the science of how this blood test actually works. We're going to look at what the research really found and why this early warning matters so much. Then we'll get real about the limitations before wrapping up with a super practical 5-step action plan you can actually use. Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, a breakthrough in prediction. This is huge, you guys. We're talking about a complete shift away from that old feeling of uncertainty and toward a future that's actually filled with hope. I mean, for decades, getting an Alzheimer's diagnosis was just brutal. You had to go through invasive things like spinal taps, crazy expensive brain scans, and the worst part, it all happened after the memory loss had already started. Now look at the difference. We're talking about a simple blood test that can see this coming years, sometimes decades, before symptoms even show up. That is the shift we're talking about, from uncertainty to genuine hope. And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. This is solid science. It comes from a landmark study published in one of the top journals out there, Nature Medicine. The brilliant folks over at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, they're the ones who made this happen. So the big question is, how on earth does a blood test do this? Well, in this next part, we're going to break down the science. It all comes down to one little protein with a funny name, p-tau 217. So what is this p-tau 217 stuff? Well, think of it this way. In a healthy brain, there's a protein called tau that kind of acts like the support beams for your brain cells. But with Alzheimer's, this tau protein goes rogue. It gets all tangled up, and as these damaging tangles form inside the brain, tiny bits of this abnormal protein, this p-tau 217, actually leak out into your bloodstream. And that's our window. It gives us a direct look at what's happening inside. The researchers came up with this really great analogy to help us picture it.
Think about the way tree rings build up over time, right? One ring for every year. Well, for something like 15 or even 20 years, the toxic proteins behind Alzheimer's can be building up silently in the brain, just like those rings. And here's where the blood test is so amazing. It basically lets us count those rings. We can see how much has built up, how far along things are, all without having to cut down the tree. No invasive scans, no painful procedures, just a blood test. All right, so we get the science, but what did the study actually find? Let's dig into the key results. Get this. The Alzheimer's clock that they built can predict when symptoms are likely to start with a margin of error of just 3 to 4 years. I mean, think about that. For a disease that silently develops over 20 years, being able to pinpoint the start like that is just wow. It's truly remarkable. They also found something else really interesting, and it has to do with age. It seems like younger brains are just more resilient. So, for example, if the protein shows up in your blood at age 60, symptoms might not actually appear for another 20 years, around age 80. But if it shows up when you're 80, that warning window shrinks to about 11 years. It's like younger brains can just handle the damage for longer before things start to show. And there are 2 other really important takeaways here. First, this isn't some one-off thing. The prediction model works with different commercial tests that are already out there, which is huge for getting this into more hands. And second,
And this is great for science. The researchers made their tool open access. That means scientists all over the world can use it and help make it even better, which is just going to speed everything up. Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of, all right, why does any of this matter if we don't have a cure yet? Well, this next part is all about the incredible power that comes with simply knowing. Honestly, early detection is a total game changer, and here's why. First off, there are new drugs out there, FDA-approved drugs like Leqembi, that only work in the very early stages. This test could be the key to getting those drugs to people when they can actually help.
Second, it gives you the unbelievable gift of time. Time to plan, time to get your financial, legal, and care decisions sorted out while you're still in the driver's seat. Third, it makes finding people for clinical trials way faster, which means we get closer to better treatments faster. And finally, for a lot of people, it's the ultimate motivator to start making those brain-healthy lifestyle changes, like today. So just pause for a second and think about that. What could that early knowledge mean for your family, for you? It completely changes the conversation. It's no longer about fear, it's about planning, it's about empowerment. But it's super important that we stay grounded here. This is an amazing breakthrough, but we have to be really clear about what this test is and what it isn't, at least for now. So let's talk about the limitations. So there are 3 really important things to keep in mind. First, this is not a screening test for everybody walking around healthy. Right now, it's mostly for people who are already showing some signs of cognitive trouble. Second, it's not quite precise enough yet for a doctor to make a definitive clinical decision for one single person. And third, and this is maybe the most important one, a high result is not a guarantee. It means your risk is higher, for sure, but it does not mean you will 100% develop Alzheimer's. All right, so we've taken in all this new information. Now for the most important part. What can you actually do with it? Well, our last section is all about that. We're going to turn all this science into a simple 5-step action plan that you can start on today. Okay, here we go. Step 1, talk to your doctor. It's that simple. Just start the conversation about your concerns, your family history, and ask if biomarker testing might make sense for you. Step 2, get a baseline cognitive assessment. A lot of times this is covered in an annual wellness visit, and it's so helpful for tracking how you're doing over time. Step 3, lean into those brain protective habits. You know the drill. Good diet, exercise, staying connected with people, it all adds up. Step 4, stay in the loop about clinical trials in your area. You could be a part of the next big breakthrough. And finally, Step 5, plan ahead. Seriously, getting your legal and financial house in order is one of the best gifts you can give your family, period. You know, when you zoom out, what this all means is just a massive shift. It's perfectly said right here. We are moving from reacting to Alzheimer's to proactively preventing its worst outcomes. We are finally, truly entering a new chapter in this fight. One that's more hopeful, one where we're armed with knowledge, and most importantly, one where we have the power to act.